Ben Youngs has cast doubt over whether Harlequins can carry their impressive Investec Champions Cup form forward, despite Sunday's emphatic 9-try demolition of the Stormers at Twickenham Stoop. While the scoreline suggested a statement victory, the former England scrum-half believes the result should be viewed with caution, particularly given the circumstances surrounding the South African side's team selection and Harlequins' broader struggles this season. That on the surface, it was an outstanding afternoon for Quins. They dominated territory, controlled possession, and tore through the Stormers' defense with a brand of high-tempo attacking rugby that has long been their trademark. 9 tries to 2 is a comprehensive outcome by any measure, and for large spells, the hosts looked sharper, fitter, and far more cohesive than their opponents. The win propelled Harlequins above the Stormers into second place in Pool 3 of the Investec Champions Cup, guaranteeing them a spot in the round of 16 alongside group leaders Leinster. From a purely mathematical standpoint, it was a hugely significant result. But context matters, and Youngs is unconvinced that it tells the full story about where Harlequins truly sit as a European force at a result that flatters. Speaking on the For the Love of Rugby podcast after the match, Youngs pointed to the Stormers' heavily rotated lineup as a key factor in the one-sided nature of the contest. The Stormers sent a very, very mixed team, he said, and they were poor and got totally outclassed against a Quins team that has got no form. So that probably tells you all. It was a blunt assessment, but not an unfair one. The Stormers arrived in London having won 10 consecutive matches across all competitions. Yet they opted to rest several of their frontline internationals with an eye on upcoming domestic and European fixtures. While understandable from a squad management perspective, it left them exposed against a Harlequins side desperate for momentum. Youngs acknowledged that Quins deserve credit for capitalizing on what was in front of them, particularly after a period of introspection earlier in the week. Quins had a bit of soul-searching this week, he said, and we saw moments of the Quins that we expect. I think this will give them a good boost. Those moments were evident throughout the match. Harlequins played with greater freedom. Their ball movement was crisp, and their support play consistently stretched the Stormers' defensive system. The Stoop crowd, having arrived with a sense of unease, were quickly lifted by the fluency and ambition on display. European progress, domestic concerns. Even as Harlequins celebrated their qualification for the knockout stages, there remains a lingering sense that this season has yet to truly ignite for Danny Wilson's side. In the Premiership, Quins sit 8th in the 10-team table, having won just 2 of their opening 7 matches. Performances have been inconsistent, and the confidence that once defined their identity has often appeared fragile. That contrast between European promise and domestic struggle underpins Young's uncertainty. While the Champions Cup win was emphatic, he questioned how much could genuinely be learned from a match in which the Stormers had little riding on the outcome. Stormers, from their point of view, they didn't need anything out of this game, Youngs explained. They of course have Tigers next weekend at home. You'd expect them to win that. That means they'll have enough points to get through. Indeed, the Stormers now return to Cape Town to host Leicester Tigers, where a bonus point victory would almost certainly see them leapfrog Harlequins back in a second place in the pool. If Quins then lose their final group match away to La Rochelle, a scenario many would consider likely, the London side would surrender the advantage of a home round of 16 times a daunting trip to La Rochelle. That looming trip to Stade Marcel de Flandre is the real litmus test. La Rochelle, 2-time Champions Cup winners, represent one of the most physically imposing and tactically astute sides in European rugby. Few teams travel there expecting success, and Harlequins' recent inconsistency only adds to the challenge. Youngs was quick to highlight how quickly optimism can evaporate at this level. A good win for them today, but could easily be humbled again next week, he said. For Harlequins, the question is not whether they can play exhilarating rugby on a good day, but whether they can produce a controlled, resilient performance in hostile conditions against elite opposition. That has been a recurring issue, particularly when momentum shifts or pressure mounts. Fans caught between hope and realism. Interestingly, Youngs revealed that many Harlequin supporters arrived at the Stoop feeling anxious, fully aware of the Stormers' formidable winning run. The fans, to be fair, I caught up with a lot of them, asking a lot of questions, he said. They were a bit nervy going into today's game. That nervousness, however, gave way to enjoyment as Quins ran in try after try. The entertainment factor was undeniable, and for many supporters, the afternoon served as a reminder of what their side is capable of when confidence flows. Yet Young suggested there was an underlying realism among the fan base. I think they weren't quite aware of the side that Stormers have put out, he added. So people are walking away happy. They were entertained. There was plenty of tries, but I think they know that Quins aren't out of it yet. That nuance is important. While the scoreboard told a story of dominance, the performance did not entirely erase concerns about consistency, control, and defensive solidity. Progress, but not the finished article for Youngs. Sunday's match represented a step forward rather than a definitive turning point. The performances haven't been as consistent or at the level that you'd expect from a Harlequins team, he said. And therefore, I think today's a step in the right direction. The emphasis, however, remains on what comes next. But the fans certainly want the consistency back, he continued. Today's a win, but can they go to La Rochelle next week? Can they get anything out of the game? Can they perform? What does that performance look like? Those questions hang heavily over Harlequins' European campaign. A competitive showing in France, even in defeat, could signal genuine progress. A heavy loss, on the other hand, would reinforce the idea that Sunday's result was more an anomaly than a trend. Young summed up the mood succinctly. I think there's still some question marks amongst the Quins fans, he said. Although they were well entertained, it wasn't sort of captivating entertainment. You know what I mean? It was very one-way traffic. A season at a crossroads as Harlequins prepare for arguably their toughest assignment of the season. The narrative surrounding them remains delicately balanced. They have proven they can still thrill, still score tries in bunches, and still overwhelm opponents on their day. What remains uncertain is whether they can do so consistently against the very best when conditions are less forgiving. Sunday's win over the Stormers was impressive, enjoyable, and important. Whether it proves meaningful in the wider context of their season will be determined not at Twickenham Stoop, but in the cauldron of La Rochelle.